Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next 2 hours, along with Mike.
How did I get to be first?
Good morning, because you're on the screen. What can I say?
Oh, okay.
And Nick is here.
Morning.
Good morning. And Mike is here. Steve is here. Sorry.
That's not fair.
You just can't get it right, can you? Hello, everybody.
And there you go. You see, here's now with we'll talk about it.
But hold on. You introduced Mike twice. You didn't introduce me twice.
Yeah, I was thinking Jorvik.
But that's not fair. Mike got two.
I know. Okay, and Nick is here.
Good morning. How are
twice. And our number is 919-518-9773. Computers 2K voice on Skype. And this morning's show is...
You've got something wrong here.
What am I got wrong?
I believe you're clicked on my picture and it's not switching.
We'll talk about this. Today's show is made possible by Telestream's Wirecast software and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. Yes. I don't care who... Oh, wait a second. It may be because of that. Let's see. Somebody else say something?
Something.
Yeah, it's working. I had you clicked. I'm sorry. When I changed the browser, I clicked it in order to adjust the capture, and I forgot to take it off.
Just anybody click me.
Yeah. I click you all the time. So it's been kind of slow week as far as tech goes.
Speak for yourself.
Okay. Oh, well, I'm not talking about problems. Problems, yes, there are. And I had an interesting situation yesterday. I told you that one of my customers gave me a MacBook Pro that did not want to boot.
Yes.
So I tried again and again, and it won't work. So I finally got on Apple support and got somebody online, and we were talking, and she had me do this and that and press command this, command that. And it got to the point where she said, okay, let's try one more thing and see if it'll do it. And we did it, and it says that it's the recovery mode, whatever. And it asked me for my Wi-Fi, and I put it in there and everything. And then there was a gear that was spinning there. The first time I typed the password wrong, so it came back. So now I saw a gear. I said, okay, yeah, it's working. And I told her, and she said, yeah, it's fine. And she said, let's wait a little bit, and then I'll tell you what to do. And we stayed there for about 15 minutes, and it's still spinning. And I said, let me tell you something. If you got something else to do, I can call back when I see that I need somebody here. No need for you to just sit here and wait. How long should it take? She said, oh, just a few minutes. I said, well, it's already more than a few minutes. So I had a case number, and it's okay, fine. Was busy throughout the day. 5 o'clock, I'm looking at it, and it's still spinning. I said, no. This was like about 11 in the morning. I said, no, something is wrong. So I called and talked to a guy and told him what he said. No. That should not happen. I don't care how slow your internet is. And he had me do something else and press these buttons and these buttons and that, and it came up with a spinning globe. And he says, "Yep, that now it's doing it." I said, "Okay, how long should it take?" He said, "It all depends on your internet speed with the Wi-Fi." I said, "So what?" He said, "Well, anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour." I said, "How about I'll call back?" He said, "No, I'll do better than that. How about I will set up an appointment for somebody to call you." This was 8 o'clock in the evening. I said, "How about I'll have somebody call you at 9:30?" I said, "That'll be fine." As he hung up, a thing flashed on the screen, came up, and there was it was all gray, an exclamation point, and said, apple.com/support-2002F. I said, "Okay, that's an error probably." I tried to do the same thing that he told me before as with the key and got to the same point. So I said, "Okay, it's wrong." So I called somebody before 9:30 right away. And I told him, and he had me do a couple more things. He said, "Now you're going to need to come in. It needs to be a store visit." I said, "Okay." I said, "Is this going to cost?" He said, "To look at it, no. To tell you what's wrong, no, it's not. But if it needs hardware, then we'll tell you how much it's going to cost." And he said, "But I don't think you need hardware because we can see the hard drive." So I need to go Wednesday to Crabtree, Mike, and talk to the genius there.
Oh, you're going to be in for a ride.
You might want to wear a surgical mask and all that kind of crap.
Yeah, rubber gloves.
Rubber
You
glove.
know what, though? Here, I will give Apple credit. Amnon, how old is this computer?
It is. I have no idea. Actually, I have no. But I think the guy thinks it's about 4 years old.
4 years old.
You gotta
Amnon
gotta
doesn't own it.
Somebody's
Absolutely.
that boy.
And
You
he's
know-
going to be able to bring it into that location. And if it's repairable with a little part that they have in stock, they will not charge him for it.
Well, I was that close to ask, but I didn't want to provoke anybody. But I spoke with 4 people. I said, I was going to ask, "How do you guys know that I did not steal this? You didn't ask me for my name." I mean, no, they did ask for my name, but anything else that would identify. They didn't ask for a serial number. I was really, really intrigued. Are they just going to talk to anybody? And it doesn't matter what, because, I mean, for all they know, I stole it.
It's
So-
their support. You know, again, I'll say it 1,000 times. The only reason I will be buying another iPhone instead of an Android is because of their support. Amnon, you will walk out of that store and you'll be amazed.
Well, let's see. We'll wait and see. This is a good test.
Yeah, Mike, you think I'm going to turn into an Apple fanboy?
Well, I mean, look, we dog on Apple here, but there's nothing wrong with their computers.
No.
What's wrong with Apple is Apple.
No, I mean, I got to tell you, I talked with...
Their
1, 2,
computers
3.
are Unix-based machines made by Foxconn, the same people who make Lenovo and everyone else. It's just a different operating system.
I talked with 4 people, and each and every one of them really knew their stuff. It wasn't like reading from a card or let me ask. I mean, every question that I had was answered right away. You could tell that these people knew their stuff. And it was nice. I gotta say, I mean, you know, I'm already impressed with the way that they treat the customers. And I mean, Saturday night, 9:30, the guy called. And I told him, I said, "I just want to tell you that I already called in and got a store visit appointment. So you're really, I'm sorry you had to call." He said, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So
Got
you
nothing
got
else
it?
to do.
Huh?
Got nothing else to do.
Yeah. Well,
Here,
I don't know.
You need to turn your speakers down, Amnon. Every time I talk, I can hear myself.
I mean, is this better?
I don't
You
know. I'm
talk,
not
you
talking.
talk.
But I mean, The point being that yes, customer service is good, it's important, but you're paying if you buy an Apple computer,
You
that's
pay
what you're
for it.
paying for.
Yeah.
But think
You're
about it
paying,
with Amnon's situation. Amnon, did you pay for this computer? Or was it given to
somebody
you?
did.
No, it was
Somebody
given
paid
to me.
for it.
No, I agree. Somebody did. It's just it's pretty phenomenal that this is available. I'll be interested in to see what the outcome is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, my brother went through this, telling me how wonderful their support was, and this and that and the other, and he had his, and which he paid for, wouldn't work. And I said, "Well, you're doing something wrong. The Macs just work; they don't break."
The
And he said,
only thing that I am sort of like disappointed so far is I think that Philip just deleted files from the hard drive because I
Can't do
told
that
him
on OS.
I said remove all your personal stuff, and when I get it, I'm also gonna not knowing Apple, I said I'm gonna just format it and redo the whole thing. And I don't care what you remove, delete on a PC. You can always get to the point and say, okay, just format this. You don't do that on an Apple. There is no facility to do this. I mean, we went into the
"That's not true."
well, we went into the settings, and I told the guy, I said, I will just erase everything. It's fine. He sees the partitions, he sees the Mac hard drive, he sees everything else, and he says, yeah, your hard drive is there. He must have deleted something from the OS. I said, well, can't we just completely erase and do it? He said, you have to bring it to the store. It's like it will not take it. He said he must have deleted something and tried to reinstall. Something got screwed up there. So I said, can't we just completely erase, like format on a PC and start from scratch? He said, you're going to have to bring it to the store for that.
Andrew does it all the
So
time.
I know there may be some. Look, if they're going to be able to do it at the store, I don't see any reason why I couldn't. Maybe they just don't want to tell you how to do it.
No, I tell you what my guess is, Nick. You tell me if this is correct.
Yeah.
I'll bet you it's because they have the image at the store. The facility to download the image from the internet is not available because of the way this operating system is screwed up.
That may be the case. I think the other part is, did they ask you where you lived before?
Only before the store, because he wanted to know which store to send me to.
I would have bet you if you were in, for example, Wilmington, where the closest Apple store would probably be in Raleigh. I would assume. I can't imagine there's one there. Where it was like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours away, depending on how far. I bet you they probably would have worked out a solution. But for them, remember, they think you're a paying customer. They don't want you to have to deal with the hassle of reformatting your computer. Part of their support is, there's a problem with it, bring it to our store, we'll fix it for you, don't worry about it. I'm sure that more.
That's nice. If that's the case, that's very nice. Absolutely.
That's what I would guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
anyway, that was
again, nothing against Apple, but people get say, "Oh, wow, this wonderful support." You're paying for that.
Absolutely, you are.
You're just the problem is they're very smart. They get the money up front, and after a while, you don't dwell on the how much you got stung when you paid for it, and whenever problems pop up, then you've paid for that service. You get the service, and then they end up with a happy customer. That's not a bad system.
You know what though? You do pay for that service, but I spent just as much on this Asus laptop I had. That thing was just about $1,000, and the support on that is just like any other product. They have
What kind
to
of Apple
RMA it.
computer do you think you would get for $1,000?
You could get, with the baseline MacBook is like 1,100.
Is that what you got? Is a baseline computer?
Yeah, mine's nothing special.
How much RAM do you have in it?
8 gigs.
And how big is the hard drive?
120. I think it's 128 gig SSD.
this one is 256.
Yeah.
Or maybe it is 256. I don't remember. One or the other. It's not big.
And what about the video card?
It's got an NVIDIA card in it, which Apple doesn't. They don't.
That's what I'm
sell.
saying. You're not really comparing apples.
No, I'm not comparing Apple to Apple, but if I was to get a MacBook tomorrow, which I'm looking at eventually, because the battery life on this thing is terrible, it would probably be between $1,000 and $1,200.
I'd love to see that, because every time I've gone into price one, thinking that maybe I'd get my wife one or something like that, I end up in the $2,000 to $3,000 range.
Yeah.
So
Well,
anyway, I was going to finish telling you about my brother. He took his I don't know which one he had. I don't know if it was a laptop or what. So he says, all right, well, I've got to take it into the store. They said I've got to bring it in. He's 2 hours away. I got to take it into the store, and they're going to diagnose. Well, I said, you're just wasting a trip up here because you're doing something wrong. Why don't you just figure out what you're doing wrong? And so anyway, he got it up there, and you got a bad main board, $700.
Now there's stuff like that they won't fix. Under like if Amnon's has a bad thing, he's shit out of luck. He's gonna have to buy a new one if he
yeah,
wants it to work.
I mean that's. I mean, I asked him and I said, I just want to know, because if it's going to cost a bunch of money, I'm not going to do anything. I mean, this thing was given to me,
I wouldn't tell him that.
and he said he was fine.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, good luck with that.
So what else?
Amnon's becoming an Apple convert.
No, I don't know about that. I mean, look, at least I'm opening my mind to the fact that today there is a lot more usage, a lot more usability to have a Mac, and a lot of people are using it.
I don't agree. I don't think anything's changed.
I think a
don't
big
know.
thing that has changed, in my opinion, is a lot of services now are just websites.
Right.
Which the big problem was, before it's all of these usability programs don't exist on the OS. A lot of the I mean, Mike, look at all the stuff that we use every day. I mean, Slack, that's a web service. Google, whatchamacallit, Mail.
Yeah, it's sort of like being
Google
used
Apps,
as a terminal.
Exactly. It's no different than using a Chromebook. You know, a lot of these services I use are web based. I mean, I have a bookmark in my Chrome window for them. I don't even have them installed on my laptop. I just use the web based version.
Or you do like me and you try to install Office 2016 and can't find the DVD.
You can download that from online, from Microsoft's site.
Well, I think I downloaded it, but I'm not sure. I don't like doing the online install. I want the DVD. As far as I know, I have found what claims to be an ISO, but I'm not positive. I paid $15 to have the actual CD DVD sent to me. I found the one for 2013, which I may use. I've got 3 licenses to that I'm not using. I may use that, but I specifically bought 2016, paid $15 for it, and I'd like to find it. I did find my digital recorder.
Well, good.
So what you're going to do? Record an Office
Think about becoming a
2016 on?
podcaster, Amnon. I want to make the big bucks.
We're making a lot of money over at Fex. We're making about 100 G's a year a piece.
Well, that's
Great.
hardly worth your time.
I'm telling you, then I can, I guess, I can channel the income stream from the show to Mike. Actually, I'm going to do it now.
Oh, Gene had a question for you in chat, Nick.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even see it.
Oh,
So,
gee.
no,
Oh,
no,
gee.
Gene. No, it will be hopefully on next week's show.
Next week's show, he should be here.
Well, I don't know.
Why?
I mean, you're not going to be ready to do a show next Sunday.
I'll go over to the radio station and do it
Oh,
if I don't have internet.
Well, with Speculum, typically if the facility's already wired, all you do is go pick up the modem or
Hopefully,
have your own.
all depends on when I get down there.
Well, even then, it's turned on. We'll turn it on.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll be here next week in some respect. Hopefully.
did you find out if you could order the service
I
right
still
now
don't have
before
I
you
still
there?
don't have the unit yet, so I
Okay.
haven't even bothered to call.
Okay.
I'm not going to order it before. I mean, it'll be a 1-second phone call when I get there. Just make sure everything is set up and working.
Yep. All right.
It could even still be active.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
just need
you
a
go in
modem.
there and it's no. What was it yesterday? Yesterday, the day before yesterday, Nick was looking on the map, to find out. I mean, on the list, the addresses to find out what he can get there, and it's sort of like in the regular list, it skipped his unit,
Uh-oh.
and he says, "Wouldn't you know it? I'll get the one unit that doesn't have anything."
It's not wired. It doesn't have cable.
It's not-
I have to put a hole through the wall and ask my neighbor
Yeah.
about bumming some internet.
Yeah, well, maybe that unit used to be used for Russian spies.
Very possible. That's
I'll have
right.
to do a
Yeah.
sweep of it before I move in.
I mean, Wilmington is such a hotbed of illegal spy activity.
Well, don't
Target now.
forget. Don't forget. I mean, it's a home for the USS North Carolina, right?
And that's a threat.
Huh?
That's a big threat.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a war. Leave it to CNN. They're going to say that this is high, secret, top
I
secret
haven't thought
stuff,
about
and
it.
that's
I bet that the USS North Carolina is spy ops for the Russians. They're
Fox
actually
News
hiding-
was there like 2 weeks ago doing a
See?
remote, probably.
See,
Oh,
there you
boy.
go.
Well, we got to remember now. I'm a target because I'm a national
Yep.
radio host.
you are absolutely. You sure are. We can't even mention where Nick address is. We can't talk about this.
There you go.
Just remember Apple.
All right,
Don't
let's
spell it properly.
Let's switch something here.
Just 2 keys over, Mike.
A study by Maplight indicates that for every one comment submitted to the FCC on net neutrality, and there have been roughly 5 million or so far, the telecom industry has spent $100 in lobbying to crush the open internet. The group found that Comcast, AT&T, Verizon, and the National Cable and Telecommunication Association have spent $572 million on attempts to influence the FCC and other government agencies since 2008. The FCC decision, slated to be announced later this summer, will be a clear indicator of the power of corporate cash, note the report.
Okay, so I've got a couple things here.
Yeah.
I believe it was the 12th of last week, I think, was the net neutrality day.
Yeah.
Where all this nonsense was going on. So I want to say this as delicately as possible. I understand that net neutrality is a big deal and that it could be a threat to what we do and what we enjoy now. But it's not. Like, they make this argument like, oh, well, if net neutrality goes through, you will have to pay to access YouTube. Nobody has said that. Theoretically, it would allow the cable companies to do that. I don't think for a second the cable companies would do that. I don't see any massive cable company charging you to access websites because people will just not pay for it.
Right.
It won't happen. They'll just use it on their phones. They're not going to pay for it. That won't work. So I think it's this mass hysteria over this thing. I mean, I haven't heard any ISP come out and say, "Oh yes, if net neutrality passes, we're going to charge you to use all these different websites. We're going to charge you to use YouTube. We're going to charge you to use Netflix." I have not heard anybody say that. So I'm not sure where this hysteria over, oh, the internet now it's going to be pay to use websites. And I see all these arguments about bandwidth caps. ISPs already have bandwidth caps. They already have those. AT&T already does that. Charter already does that. Charter has bandwidth caps for their legacy customers. They've already had those in place. All of these people already have bandwidth caps, so that's a losing argument. And third, to finish it all off, sending a freaking tweet with the hashtag net neutrality doesn't do a damn thing. Pick up the phone and call a representative if you actually care. I'm so sick of this garbage. All with my stupid Twitter stream. All these morons tweeting about net neutrality. Pick up the damn phone, you loser. Make a phone call.
To
And
whom?
Call your representative if you
you-
want to do
Yeah,
anything.
that'll be effective.
Well,
well,
just
I mean,
at least it does something. I mean, what is hashtag net neutrality doing? You think these Republicans and Democrats that are getting paid millions of dollars by these ISPs care about your tweet? Come on, get real.
The issue that keeps getting talked about, which is not getting talked about, which is deliberate, is the name net neutrality.
Mhm.
That's like Affordable Care Act. See, Amnon gets it. People are bitching about it, and they don't even know what they're complaining about. They don't even know what it is that they're offended by. All they're doing is reading some mass hysteria. I mean, I'm being nice. I'll try to be nice, but if you don't know what net neutrality is about, and I don't, except that the things that I've heard is that the name is not accurate.
Okay, so do we need? Should I do a quick explanation of net neutrality?
You can give us your interpretation of that, sure.
So I think the whole argument behind this net neutrality. So right now, the connection that Amnon hosts this Nissan Communications or Computers 2K Now site. He has the same access to customers at the same speed if he chooses as Google and YouTube and Facebook and any other massive website you can think of. They all have theoretically the same pipe. They can all pay for the same internet connection. They're not Amnon's site or Google's site is not favored over the other. With net neutrality, it would theoretically allow sites like Google and YouTube, specifically media sites like YouTube and Netflix, to pay more, millions, maybe billions of dollars more over a period of time to get preferred access on the internet delivered to the users, so that the Netflix stream maybe doesn't buffer as much as it once did. Theoretically, that's what is possible, but the interpretation from some people is that the ISPs would have the right, and they would have this right, to throttle what websites you visit. And I just don't see that happening. Again, I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, that would really suck. But I just don't. There would be. There's only like 4 cable companies that serve 90 or 95% of the country. I mean, it's not. If one of those or 2 of those did that, people would be livid, and they'd have no choice but to roll. I mean, we're seeing it right now with cell phone providers and unlimited data. They got rid of unlimited data. Everybody was all pissed off. Now they're bringing it back because one company starts doing it, and people start making a switch. So I just don't see. I don't understand the outrage. I mean, yes, it is theoretically possible, but it's not. I don't think it's the end of the. I see people. It's going to be the end of the internet. I don't buy that.
Well, I'll tell you this. Here's what to think about. Here's how you can resolve this to your satisfaction. If the cable companies are in favor of it, you're probably not. They're not advocating these law changes so they can provide better customer service.
I agree 100%. But again, I don't think my opinion on it and my tweet and my call to the FCC is really going to do a damn thing, because it won't.
No, but let's be honest now, because I mean, Amnon and Steve and I are on the other side of this fence than you are. The fact is that even when you're tweeting these things, you are maybe at least to some extent motivating people. Certainly you are informing people. Wait a minute, net neutrality, what is it? I've heard a lot about it. Maybe I need to look into that. Whoa, wait a minute. I'm not in favor of that. I need to call my Congress critter.
No, it's, I'm not in favor of that. Let me send out this tweet. I mean, that's what's so far. Again, I'm not for it. I'm definitely not for it one bit. Because I don't want sites, or like, I don't want companies to be able to buy premium access. I think it should all be the same. But I just Amnon read the story. How much have they been funneling into people lobbying since 2008?
572 million.
Really? Like, my call is gonna, at this point? I mean, clearly this is
I think this is where you're making a mistake, Nick.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Just my opinion, because I do believe in what's called incrementalism, and that means that you have to crawl before you walk. If you get people jacked up with a bunch of tweets and they see net neutrality hashtag, is that alone going to solve the problem? No. But there are so many people out there who still watch CNN, for example, who don't know anything about this stuff. CNN's owned by cable companies and so forth. They're not going to tell you the whole story.
Yeah.
So if you watch CNN, you're woefully uninformed in everything except the Russian hacking. And so it kind of lays a foundation to get the great unwashed out there to pay attention to what's going on. So to that extent, I think what you're saying, and I would agree with, is that if you think that just doing a hashtag is going to solve the problem, that's naive. But if it's part of a gigantic solution, I mean, what are you guys going to be doing 30 years from now with the internet? Who knows? Who knows? Not my problem. But so is the battle going on now? I think it is.
See, I disagree. I think the battle was a couple of years ago. I mean, this thing is ready to be. This decision has been made for probably months, if not years already. I mean, it's the same example. This is a perfect example, Mike. You and I were talking privately about a couple of comedians getting all upset about Sinclair Media Group purchasing a whole bunch of privately owned market television stations and having a monopoly in the local television market. I saw John Oliver from HBO all upset about this. Sinclair has been buying TV stations for 15 freaking years. Like they've owned hundreds of TV stations for 10 years. But I think the outrage is just a little too late to do this national day. I think the decision's already made. That's kind of my frustration with it.
I don't agree.
The decision could come out tomorrow for all we know.
I understand, and then the following week they can vote to rescind it. So it's never
very
over.
true.
Well, it's the same as SOPA, isn't it? They thought it was all done and dusted, and look what happened there. There was a big outcry, and it all faltered and fell apart.
And I was going to ask you, Steve, do you guys have rumblings over there about your internet service or what they're going to do or not going to do, or give you this or take away that?
No, I mean, we've gone through stages where they say they're going to be putting in caps and they're going to be limiting this, that, and the other, and you can't buy this particular feature set or function or whatever. But because we've got the competition over here, and you've got so many players in the marketplace, over there you've got 3. Over here we've got dozens and dozens. So if one of them changes their system and it's slightly beneficial, everybody switches. And then when everybody else then realizes, oh, hang on a minute, we need to do that too to stop our customers going, then they start integrating the same thing or something that's slightly better. So there's a constant flux in what happens and who's offering what and in what way they're doing it. And it's brilliant for the customer. It's fantastic for the customer.
So your service, does it come in over coax or telephone line?
Telephone line for broadband, and then you've got cable or satellite connection. So we've got 3 types that come in, but basically speaking, the majority is through telephone line systems, broadband.
So you're on DSL.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like Mike Jorvik up in Yorkshire, he's got cable, and there are areas that are covered by cable, other areas that are covered by satellite.
How do they have so many competitors over the same coax?
Well, it's because when British Telecom was opened up to whoever wanted to use the lines, loads of companies started up saying, well, we'll provide that service. We can do that service. And we've got dozens and dozens of them.
Are any of them government?
No, it used to be British Telecom was owned by the public. It was then sold off. They still own all the lines, but they've opened up the network and all the services that go on it to anybody that wants to.
Actually, you just answered my question. The fact that the means of moving the communications back and forth are owned by the government, that means that there should be theoretically equal access to the various competitors.
Like the dial-up market was in the U.S. like that, I think, right? I mean, anybody could just become a dial-up carrier if you bought the equipment.
Well, that's what happened here originally before broadband and ADSL came along. You had a phone line that you had your internet dial-up connection on, and that was it. You could only have a dial-up connection on the phone line. So if you're on the internet, you couldn't use the phone.
But there were
So-
hundreds of hosts. But there was I'm sure there was a whole bunch of options to get your dial-up internet from.
Initially, it was just
a bunch of
BT.
them.
Initially, it was just BT, and then when they opened it up, all and sundry just jumped on the bandwagon and said, "Yeah, well, we'll provide that to you, even though they're using the same
Yeah,
equipment."
pretty crazy.
I want to go back
it-
to what. Oh, sorry, Mike.
I was just going to say, but it's brilliant for so what you're lacking in America is the competition it ensues. You know, it makes sure that the providers are giving the customers what they want.
Well,
And if they don't, boy, do they know it.
part of the problem here, and I don't know how. Again, I'm not some shill for the cable companies, but part of the problem is there are so many people that live in areas where it is just not affordable for cable company. And I know that they've got these these companies talk, and they agree to only provide to certain areas. But there are plenty of places in where I live specifically. You go a little bit farther to the north or to the south, you're in the middle of nowhere. It's just not. I don't think it's cost efficient for a cable company to roll out, huge bundles of cable string that all across the road. There's just a lot of rural places up here. So, is it how much of it is just it not effective for business? I mean, there's a whole bunch of this anti competition stuff that all these ISPs do for sure. But a lot of it's just that we're just so freaking spread out in this country. There's people all over the place.
So, Nick, you were talking in the beginning, and you were saying people think that the ISPs are going to charge them to use YouTube, and there's going to be pay to watch a certain channel. I don't know what part of the U.S. you live on, but in our area they already have that. It's called fees. First of all, that's what you pay your fee to use whatever you want. If anybody is going to charge you to use YouTube, it'll be Google, YouTube, whoever. I mean, I can start charging people to come here and watch the show. If you own the website, you charge them, not the ISP in New York.
Well, that's the argument.
Yeah.
For example, I saw a whole bunch of images this week of it would be like a video of it would be a GIF of something happening. It would get almost to the end, and it would. This is what they were doing. And then it would be a black screen, and it would say, "Pay more to access this content." That's what that's what they're using as the example. And frankly, it's bullshit.
It is bullshit. It's bullshit because
what's going to happen.
That will be the end. Or the beginning of the end for that company.
Well, it'll be the start of this these private closed networks coming up with these what do they call these what do they call them, the thresh nets or whatever, these people that are doing the mesh nets, people doing their own
stuff,
networking. That will be the mass adoption of that.
I go back to my prediction I started making 5 years ago. If net neutrality, or whatever they want to call it, threatens the viability and growth of YouTube, Google is going to provide internet access to the whole country, possibly for free. They have to have consumers of their content to grow.
Right.
I mean, you could have Google, Facebook, and a couple of other big boys provide internet to the entire country, and it would pay over 100 times, thousands times over, just by providing that content.
But I said that before, even whenever they started saying they were going to do fiber, which is now the future of which is obviously is probably doomed. But having said that, now that they are really perfecting wireless to the point that they can put up a few towers and cover the whole community instead of having to go dig up every street, that's where it's going to end up. Brent says there are reports showing that 2.1 million people still use dial-up.
I'm sure a lot of people still have dial-up.
How would they do that? Because in 2020, there are not going to be any more copper phone lines.
Yeah, that is interesting. I wonder how that is going to work.
Amnon, you still have any dial-up customers?
Yeah, a few,
How many's few?
probably a handful, maybe about
Okay.
9.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's still a lot. Why?
Well,
Can
I
they just
mean,
not get? Can they not get another service, or are they just?
Or is
So-
it a credit card processor or what?
they don't either. They don't. I never asked them. It's probably because they don't have broadband. It may be because that's all they. I mean, it used to be that it was the older people who didn't care about going surfing. All they wanted is email. And it's rural areas that have telephones but don't have broadband. So as long as they're there, yeah, I'll
Well,
provide it to them.
And Alan says in rural place, that's a hard word to say, rural places there would be, but for sure. But the reality is, even then, there is still a distance limitation. You can't run DSL over a phone line, but so many feet.
Right.
I don't know
mean,
what the number is. I'm sure it's improved over the last 10 years.
there is no such thing as not being able to get broadband to rural areas. It's a business. You can bring it there, you can pull a cable, you can use an existing cable and then do whatever it's money. And if you don't see the return, then you don't do it. And that's why they don't do it. That's why they always concentrated on heavily populated cities and towns, whatever. There was a big thing about rural internet that the government was giving money and grants to ISPs to bring it to rural areas. It brought some, but it didn't do it. Some other areas that had companies within their midst, like in Wilson and what's the other place?
Salisbury.
What?
Salisbury.
Salisbury. They took it upon themselves to say, we can do it. And they did it, and I'm sure they're getting their money's worth from it, but they built their own.
Well, I don't know if they're getting their money's worth from it. What they're doing is they're providing a service that would not otherwise be there, and whether that has a particular economic value to the whole, I don't know. That's a very complicated question, and that's part of the debate, I think. The fact is that the argument that taking Salisbury and Wilson into consideration, and that is that the tobacco businesses, the textile businesses, whatever, a lot of these dried up and moved away or died because of automation, leaving a big void there with regard to jobs, employment, that sort of thing.
Right.
Their argument was, wait a minute, we want to attract some high-tech businesses. Well, guess what? When somebody comes to visit with your mayor and they said, well, yeah, we really like Wilson. Hey, there's a good workforce here. This would be useful for us. By the way, we need 1 gigabit internet for our system. Oh, well, we don't have that. We have dial-up. Oh, boy, yeah. I hate that. This was going to be such a good opportunity for us. Boom.
Yeah.
It's just
that's the argument. You know, I mean, I'm suspicious. I mean, I don't know how often that happens. Would there be enough business there, jobs there to justify the major expenditures? I'm a big fan of private enterprise doing what private enterprise can do. But I also understand that there is, and this is political talk that I'm learning something about as well, but there has to be a balance between government and private interest. The problem is not whether the government should be involved in things. It's really where the dividing line is. What should they do? What they should not do? And did Wilson do what was right? I mean, I'm generally thinking that they did as a government. Are they typically as a government going to operate the business much more poorly than a private enterprise would run it with a profit incentive? I would suspect that they are. Are they setting themselves up as a sitting duck for people to take pot shots at them because it's not making the money or it's costing more than it should? I think that they probably will. But the fact of the matter is that whenever private enterprise is offered an opportunity to come in and to set up a town, community, for internet and they choose not to do so, now it's open territory. If it's open territory, what if no one comes in? Then does it become the government's issue to come in and to put it in? That's the hard question. If I'm living in Wilson and I can't get Speculum or AT&T or Google or anyone interested in my community, I really don't want to move just so that I can have faster internet. I'm probably going to be pro-government. Now, after all that happens, and if it is successful, if a private company wants to come in and buy out the government, am I in favor of that? Probably, unless it means poorer service and higher costs, which the poorer service would probably be hard to get any worse than the government, but the cost, if it's being supplemented by taxpayers, which is not really fair in one respect, then the cost theoretically could go up. Would I like being held hostage to Time Warner or one of these guys? No, probably not. But here's the point I was going to make in the earlier discussion that you have to think about. Let's take in Nick's community, let's say, and I'll make up numbers, they're not important. Let's say that 20 miles away, there's someone out in the country who's complaining that he can't get high-speed internet over cable. Let's just say cable. So up there, they have Speculum cable up there. So let's say that the nearest point is of the internet is 10 miles away. So this means they've got to run 10 miles of coax cable to service this one guy.
Mm-hmm.
Should they be required to run it to him? And my answer to that is no, because he chose to live out there away from the population density. If you choose to live in a place like that, then you're kind of subject to you're a victim of your decision. You could say, well, how is that consistent with the argument you just made about Wilson? Well, in the case of Wilson, it's a case of, yes, you choose to live there. If you want slow internet, keep living there. If you don't want slow internet, then take action. The question in Wilson versus there is, does the government take the action or does a private enterprise take action? I happen to be familiar, for example, with an attorney who out in Colorado was in a small community that no one was interested in the internet. No one wanted to provide it. They didn't see any money. What he did is put together a group. They built their own. They started and built their own internet, and it wasn't the greatest in the world, and nobody really had the time or the interest to run it. But ultimately, when they became viable, they all had internet, operated their businesses from there. Some company came in, bought it out, took it over, made it as part of their infrastructure, and now everybody there's fat, dumb, and happy. But that's where private enterprise trumped government. The government was not even interested in bringing it in. This was pretty early in the process. The government, shocker, didn't see the value of the internet for the community. They took matters into their own hands, and they were very successful. But even then, if they had they would have people outside of this little circle to whom it would not be cost effective to provide it even as a private entity. The question ultimately becomes, at what point does the government have to put money in to provide quote unquote universal service? And where this all comes back from, the argument that was always made was you can go to the post office and mail a letter in those days. When this argument was out, I think it was 32 cents. You can send it to Nome, Alaska. You can send it to Laurel Hill, North Carolina. You can send it to Queens, New York. You can send it where it's 32 cents. It's called universal service. You know darn well the post office would lose money taking that letter to Nome, Alaska for 32 cents. Whereas if they are taking that letter, and we're in Raleigh, if they are mailing a letter to Zebulon, then they would make money on that 32-cent letter. So what happens is that it's a universal service where the losers are supplemented by the winners. The question then becomes, should we adopt that same sort of model with regard to internet? And I would say the answer is clearly yes and no.
Well,
real quick, 2 seconds. I was just recently in the town of Alcove, New York, for a funeral, a relative that passed away. according to Wikipedia, the population is like 300 or 400 people. There's no cable in that town. Of course not. Why would Spectrum or Time Warner run service 10, 20, 30, 40 miles to service 300 or 400 people? It's a loser. It's a loser.
Mm-hmm.
They don't make any money, so that's why they have that's why they still have dial-up out there, because nobody wants to run cable. And I
Right.
can't blame them. It's a loser.
Right.
So.
That's the it's a problem, yeah. Hey guys, I want you to welcome Sergey. Hey Sergey,
Hey guys,
how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
And I want you to turn your monitor towards you and don't be all the way at the bottom of keep going, keep going, keep
sure.
going, keep going. Okay. That's
You
better.
won't see anything spectacular below that.
That's okay. No, that's fine. It's just that we need to see you better. Everybody, Sergey is the owner of WorksForWeb. You know, you heard me guys talking about the classifieds websites that we host on Delta Force, and Sergey is the guy, and he's joining us. You know, we'll talk. I mean, he's also a technical guy, so we'll talk about those websites, and we'll talk about technical in general. So feel free to jump in anytime, Sergey.
Awesome.
And you are
Yeah.
calling from Kyrgyzstan.
I'm calling from Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. Correct. I
Bishkek.
guess I'm the first one on this community from Kyrgyzstan, or from Central Asia for that matter.
Yep.
There it goes. I am just basically what I heard you guys talking about is the reasonableness of public services, the internet being one in like small communities. Was that the idea that you were covering overall?
We were talking about how internet is propagating and to certain places that there is not enough money to come to return for the ISPs. They're not going to take it there. And when you have in an area, you have, let's say, Spectrum is in the general area and AT&T is not there. If Spectrum is not going to take it another 30, 40 miles, why would AT&T take it 400 miles? You know, it's just talking about dial-up and why dial-up is still there and so forth.
This is actually a very interesting topic because we had this discussion with my guys actually several days ago. In fact, one of our colleagues, his parents live in a city which is about miles from the capital city of our country. And in that city, they have horrendous internet, dial-up or ADSL, which is in a very low bandwidth. So they were suffering for a long time. Basically, once you drive like 30 miles away from the capital city, basically your internet services go dramatically down, the quality goes down, the price goes up, and the only option that people have is either dial-up is not even available for most of those locations, and the mobile phone would be the only type of connectivity that they could hope for. So in that small town, it has about 40K people. No, not that many. It was a governmentally owned telecom, similar to AT&T in terms of the scope and in terms of coverage. In the center, in the capital city, and then in the small towns. But then, there are two more traditional ISPs that are potentially very strong. So one of those ISPs hit that town, and brought the the wire optics into the town. So guess what happened? Went down about 3 times.
Yeah.
For the for individuals, actually, and the government was forced to drop the price about 2 times compared to their original bill earlier this year, just to keep up with them. And but basically, they have no chance to stay up and compete with the
Private.
yeah, with the private ones.
So you're in the capital city of Kyrgyzstan, in Bishkek.
Correct.
What kind of speed?
Yes.
What kind of speed can you get in the city?
Actually, the speed has increased dramatically even this year.
So what is it?
So I think with about $20 or $20 or $30 a month, I can get decent ADSL. Oh no, actually not ADSL. It is an optic channel that is brought to a big apartment block, a big apartment house, and then from the rooftop they kind of drop the regular lines to each individual apartment. So in my apartment I could get 20-30 MBS for about $20-30.
20 down?
I think, no, actually, I think up to 20 down. At least I've never seen that, but
Okay.
up to 20 down.
And what do you get on your phone?
I do not remember. I have not used ADSL or dial-up for years, actually. Yeah.
So, in general, do people? I guess I don't know how the mentality is, but do people complain about the fact, oh, it's not fast enough, we want more, or any complaints about the service?
Actually, not lately. There has been huge complaints coming from most of the people that, we're paying too much and getting too little for the money we're spending. But then the forces of competition started actually playing, and I have actually seen a dramatic increase of the quality, while the price remained largely the same throughout the last couple of years. But I have seen that other competing service providers have already started providing very decent speeds. They've started pulling the optic cables all around the downtown area, most of the living quarters, and there are some historic areas where the private housing is located, not like in the good private housing, but poor private housing. In that area, you would not have anything but the governmentally owned telecom services, and these guys will rip you off. So, but then, as soon as one of the big guys started pulling wire optics, the prices dropped dramatically. I mean, you can live on that street and get awesome optic fiber channel, but then if you go down one block, then you get no service. You can only expect the ADSL. But overall, I mean, it has changed dramatically, and the private companies have started kicking government's butt on this one. For that.
Guys, do you have any questions? No. Sergey, they closed the American base there, right?
Yes.
Now, before
about 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, before that, did the fact that there was a military American base there, Did that help technology propagate into the city, into the civilian part of the country at all?
Nope, not at all. I mean, the base was on its own. The city was on its own. There
Okay.
was no there was no cultural exchange nor
Yeah.
technology like influx with the U.S. money. No, actually,
Alright.
in fact, our private companies were supplying the base with some of the internet.
Okay.
So,
All right, so let's switch now and go into the script that you guys created years and years ago. And for the locals here in the Triangle area, you know about Southside Chopper. Southside Choppers actually was my first endeavor with WorksForWeb's scripts, and they are still using it. I think that was like in the, when was it, like
it was
2000 and
2008 or
something like that.
It was been a while.
So you have scripts. It's basically the same script with different enhancement and skins, kind of, to do different services, like for apartments classifieds, for car classifieds, for different things. I mean, your imagination went really big time, and you created different ones. How
Correct.
do you have any idea how many of these scripts are actually actively being used around the world?
Actually, we counted about 1,500 projects that we did with this. Well, it's not the script per se. We are calling it a platform because,
Yeah,
I mean, in essence, it is a platform. It is a platform that allowed people to create a website that would list a number of similar objects, categories.
right.
So if you needed to list I mean, if you had a car dealership, you would list, of course, the inventory of the car dealership. If you have like a real estate agency and you cannot afford like a bigger website, you could buy our platform and get there and get your inventory items listed.
Now,
a pawn shop, and you do the same thing with your items.
Now you don't mean that there are only 1,500 websites out there in the world that are using that script? I don't believe that. There must be more.
No, these are the 1,500 projects that we contributed to. Basically, our business model was we were selling the platform itself, and we would allow people to make modifications to that platform and basically do whatever they want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
However, when people wanted our help, when they wanted to make some changes but they didn't know how, or maybe were not well versed in web development, they would ask our help, and we would create what we call a custom project. So basically, as far as the stats go, we had close to 2,000. I mean, they definitely, I think it was 1,700 something. One of the recent projects that we had.
And the most, I think the most popular one is for cars, because so many car dealerships and car dealers and would-be car dealers are out there that I know with us here, the ones that we are hosting, it's the majority are car-based.
We actually realized that in the course of us accommodating the platform for the car dealerships, we realized that the car dealerships per se, basically this business is very fragmented, and this business is very hard to
Sergey,
set certain
Sergey,
common standards.
Sergey,
Yes.
wait a second. It's what time is it there now?
It's 8 p.m.
Yeah, the sun is going down and your face is getting dark.
Hold on, turn off the light. All right, there you
Yeah,
go.
that's
all
more
I can
like
do.
it. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So with the car dealerships, I mean, we realized that the business needs for each individual car dealership, those business needs are, are varying very much. And while we could come up with the basic set of functions to cover those basic needs of theirs, but there are so many variations with for example, for feeds that are feeding their inventory from a third party inventory service providers, or their inventory being fed to other services such as Craigslist. All of these are very fragmented and very customized. Therefore, platform per se wouldn't work for most people. And while we were coming to the realization of that, we came across a small company, which is, at that point, it was not that big, but that small company was called Big Tex Trailers. Big Tex Trailers.com. I think they are located in Austin, Texas. So these guys got our script to try and get them to basically the story. I mean, to cut the long story short, they had a service that was actually running their inventory for their dealerships. So there was about 60 plus dealerships at the moment when they contacted us. So that SaaS service at some point folded, like in a big time, and they kept all their inventory, and they basically told them, all right, you guys have no longer any inventory, and basically do whatever you want to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So the guys who were running the dealership inventory marketing, they were forced to come up with a solution within a month or two. So obviously for the trailers, there's not that many options out there on the market, and there are not that many SaaS services that were servicing trailer in the industry. So what they had to do, they had to create, and that company would actually do something with their inventory. And again, that wouldn't work out. So they bought our script, and they asked us to help a number of websites, about 60, 70 websites total, in the span of about 2 months, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And maintain a centralized repository of all of their dealers' inventories.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened in that point is we created a system based on our platform. We created a number of modifications that would allow us to push their inventory across each dealer's individual websites. And these websites were built by the team, by Big Tex Trailers team of about 8 to 9 developers. They would put like a very basic framework, and we would put an API that would pull the we can basically the inventory for this particular dealer and would display it in a WordPress environment. Overall, that came up to be a 60 plus website, which gradually turned to 200 plus websites.
Now, I'm just glad that you never had that Trump never had a meeting with you to discuss the real estate script, because we would hear about it all over now.
Actually, that would have been the best meeting you could have had for business. Your name would have been plastered all over the media for about a year. Just make something up.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, even my picture next to him would land me a bunch of business, like right there.
So people can go to WorksForWeb.com and look at the different scripts, right?
Not anymore, actually, because we when we joined the game, it was back in 2006. We were one of the 2 or 3 companies that were providing services and providing solutions on that market. But so when we were starting our business, there was pretty much nobody out there who would do similar stuff. So we would get customers landing on our lap. I mean, we wouldn't do any marketing, we wouldn't do anything. We only had a couple of ads out there, and that's it. So now, when the market peaked at around 2000 and maybe 10, 2012, it was the product. I mean, at that point, the product started maturing more and more, and then pretty much it ended up the product phase just went down to the fourth, to the phase when it died, and pretty much we failed to recognize the death of the market, and we wound up in a position whereby people were no longer interested in our services. So we had to come up with something. So instead of providing the products, we started providing the services.
So when I'm saying people can go to WorksForWeb and get it, and you're saying not right now.
Yeah, we stopped doing the retail part because I mean it was 10 plus years with us up on the market, and just died. So we stopped servicing individual customers.
Sergey, what are we promoting here then?
Nothing. I thought it was a technology.
It is. I mean, but I want to help you too. You know, yeah.
Absolutely.
These things will keep on working though. I mean, when you go to the website, you can still download it.
Oh yeah. Yes, we can. Basically, what we're doing now, we're doing a big project that with the Big Text trailer. The Big Text trailer was bought by Bain Capital. I mean, these guys are huge. So they bought along a number of other trailer manufacturers, and I believe at this point they are #1 trailer manufacturers in the U.S. and obviously in the world as well.
All I can say is that every version of the software, even though you kept on coming up with new ones, the version that I was talking about for Southside Shopper, it is still the same version from 2008, 2007. And it's working fine.
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, if you don't touch anything there, it will work forever, basically. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it's working. It's serving their purpose. So I know they're still happy with it. All right. I want to switch here a little bit and talk with microphones. Hey, Mike.
Yes, Amnon.
So I did get what I was talking with Mike about. One of the new hosts for a new show here doesn't like to show the mic in the show, and she wants to sit back so you can see from elbows up and all that, which means the microphone is going to be far. So I went ahead and I got one of them, the lav mics, and tried it. Now apparently I did not connect it right according to Mike, and I did go and get the adapter for it to go in the right place on the DBX. Now I just want you to tell me if how. I mean, I'm just going to switch mics, just lower fader and up the other fader, and tell me what's going on. Okay, how's that?
Sounds like crap. Go ahead.
All right. So what? Oh yeah, it's loud, isn't it?
No.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm seeing here the lights on
Now
the.
you're low.
I what?
You're low.
I'm low now.
The volume is low. You need to move the microphone closer to your neck as well.
Then it actually goes lower. Let me see. Okay, here it's right on my collar.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah. It seems like it's. I mean, what happened when I talked directly into it?
Well, you can't. No, the collar's
That's not how
too
you talk.
high. You can't put it on a collar. It needs to be about where your coat comes together.
Okay, it's right there in the middle.
Well, I can't tell. I'm watching delayed on the feed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, it is. It's right there in the V.
right now you need to. Is this on a separate channel than your
Yes.
regular mic?
Yeah.
All right. So go over to your equalization controls, your low, medium, and high,
Yeah.
and your high frequency should be at 12 o'clock. Is that correct?
It is correct.
Put it at 2 o'clock.
Put it at 2 o'clock. Okay.
Now talk to us a little bit.
All right. So now I'm at 2 o'clock on the high.
Okay. That is usable. It's never going to be as good as talking directly into a stand-mounted microphone, but in terms of audio, that should be fine. So talk to us a little bit. Stay on it for a while.
Is it picking up any of the AC noise and the fan noise and
Well, it is, but you've got it gated.
Yeah, that's right. I do have it gated, and it's. I guess I can even get, if it needs to be gated more, I can, because I can see it turning green at the slightest noise.
Well, you wouldn't want to gate more than about a click, because the
Okay.
The gate has to be able to differentiate the foreground and the background noise. And with a lav being that far away from your microphone, it's difficult for it to differentiate between the two, meaning that it would end up chopping off your words.
Okay. I had to lower the gain on the DBX, the one all the way on the left, the first knob.
Right, because you're using a condenser mic
Yeah.
instead of a dynamic mic.
About 5 clicks.
Doesn't matter what it is.
I'm just saying.
Look at the levels coming through the unit to
Yeah.
determine what the optimum setting is.
All right. So yeah, and it's still too loud on the meter in front of me. It goes almost to the end of the yellows. But you're saying that I sound. I mean,
Well, on the stream, it's not
Okay.
too loud.
now now the audio. I'm back to the microphone.
Okay, if you're going to not leave that plugged in, make sure you put your equalization control back to 12 o'clock.
I'm on a different channel.
I know that. I'm talking about the old channel. I don't want
Oh,
you to
yeah.
plug in a different mic and leave that turned up.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. The other thing that I did, and I'm going to try it. I ordered a telescopic monopad.
Everybody needs one of those,
And, and
especially the older you get.
I'm actually gonna. Okay, Mike. I'm going to mount it to the ceiling on an adjustable the camera base, and then I'm gonna put one of the ATR on it and have it right above her head in the front, out of the picture, and see how that sounds.
Well, I've got something else you can try too.
Okay.
I have to find it. I bought a whole bunch of. Here they are, right here.
Oh. And these are what?
$200 condenser microphones that hang from the ceiling.
Okay, but will it not be actually better if a dynamic one was working?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends on which one sounds better.
Okay, all right. So
Yeah.
I want to understand what's in the cartridge that is in that one over there.
Which one are you talking about?
The one you're holding in your hand.
It's probably the same cartridge that's in that lav mic that's on your chest.
Why would it sound better than only because the way the direction that you're talking to it?
The one that you're talking into, the element, the lav mic is omnidirectional. It picks up like a ball, everything around it.
Right.
This one is unidirectional. It's like a flashlight. It picks up directly in front of it.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I'll be more than glad to try that.
I've only got about 10 of these.
Okay. Yeah, we'll try it, but it's a problem when you're trying to get somebody to accommodate somebody to a point where, okay, you can't have the cake and eat it too.
No, you can, if you would move the studio to a much, much, much larger facility and put a lot of sound treatment on the walls, you could get away with it.
Yeah.
Or do the show outside.
Yep.
Either of those would work.
919-518-9773. Computers 2K Voice on Skype. Tish, what are you laughing about? What is that laughing out loud? I just
You're late. There was a comment about the mono something, whatever.
Oh, the monopod. Yeah. We'll see. All right.
I've got some good news.
Oh, Steve. Absolutely.
Me? Good news? That never happens. What? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, let's hear that.
April Fools.
Lots of backwards and forwards with the computer manufacturer this week. Eventually, after, well, I wouldn't call it a threat, but shall I say a very carefully worded email. They agreed that I did have on-site warranty. So I got an engineer to call on yesterday. No, not yesterday, day before yesterday. They delivered a brand new Asus NVIDIA GTX 1050 Ti, so a better card than I had and a more up-to-date one. And very strangely, he took the old card out. He said, no, it must be a card problem. So he took the old card out, put the new one in, and opened up Device Manager. And I've never seen it happen before, but very strangely, it sort of goes ba-doom when it finds something.
Mm-hmm.
And then it shows what it found. So he clicked display adapter, and there it was. It said NVIDIA GTX 1050 Ti. And then it went ba-doom. And it went and just went to Microsoft default, or Microsoft, not default, what's the word?
The Microsoft driver.
General adapter.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the driver, it was the actual card itself. Generic, that's right, Microsoft generic card. And I thought, that's weird. And he looked and he said, why has it done that? Because we hadn't touched it. It was just like there and we were talking and it just ba-doom. And then a few seconds later it went ba-doom and it showed up again. All by itself. Nothing was happening. He said, I've never seen it do that. I've never seen a computer do that before. I said, neither have I. So he said, well, let's leave it for a minute and see what happens. And over the space of a minute, it kept coming back and then disappearing all by itself. And he said, I just don't understand that. So when he put the drivers in, installed the driver, and it wouldn't install. It kept coming back code 28. So he
Oh.
rang his office and they said, oh, I don't know what that could be, download the driver from the website.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to NVIDIA, downloaded the driver, and see, I haven't got a particularly fast connection, so that didn't help matters, but we got it eventually. Installed it, and it was doing the same thing again. It was saying that the card was there, recognized it, and then it came back and said, no, it's not there, it's just a generic card.
Mm-hmm.
So he rang the office again, and they said, we've never heard of that before. And he looked at me, I looked at him and said, neither have I. So they didn't know what to do. They said, well, maybe it's another faulty card. So anyway, transpires that he hung up the phone to them, and I said, so what do we do now? He said, well, it could be the motherboard. And I said, well, just for fits and giggles, let's just do a restart and see what happens. So restarted, the screen sort of blanked and came back a couple of times. And then since then, it's been absolutely fine. So very, very strange. But it's working. I've got a GTX 1050 now.
So you've been
very nice card.
Well, hold on a second. Steve, did he install the GPU with the computer on?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was turned off. He then turned it on.
Okay. Gotcha.
And device manager sort of found it, said what it was, gave the description, and then it went, no, it's just a generic card. No, it's not. And it was backwards and forwards, and the screen was blinking on and off and stuff. But it's touch wood. It's been absolutely sorry, bro. I'm scared to top me to death. Sorry. It's been absolutely fine. And
did you restart it
Yeah.
since?
I've restarted it dozens of times.
Okay, good.
Backed up and done all sorts. So I've now got an i7 with a 1050 card in it.
So basically, what they changed was just the video card?
Just the video card, yeah.
Okay.
It was becoming doubtful whether it could possibly be the motherboard as well.
Okay.
And I was thinking, oh God, here we go. But as I say, touch wood, since we've restarted and configured it and stuff, it's working fine.
Nice.
It's a lovely card, 4 gig of RAM. Very nice. So after lots of messing around, I now have an i7 with a decent graphics card. I need to find some games to play.
There we go. We'll make that happen.
Just make sure that you don't, if you see a tire somewhere on the road, don't bring it home, because then you'll try and build a car around it.
Yeah, well, it's been 2 weeks of a nightmare, but I finally got them to agree to this on-site warranty.
That's nice. Good.
Not only that.
Who provided you with an on-site warranty?
Well, the manufacturer, Zoostorm.
The UK thing.
He bought it with that in mind. I mean, it
actually said said on the thing, next business next day on-site warranty. And that was £390. Well, I complained to Amazon to say that I was getting no response from the company, from the company that sold the computer. So they wrote back to me. I said, I've still got more good news. They wrote back to me and said, and I sent a copy of that, what I sent to Amazon, to the company, which is what I think changed their mind in order to say, okay, we'll give you on-site warranty. But in the meantime, Amazon wrote back and said, well, we're sorry you've got problems. We appreciate that you'd like to keep the computer. We'll offer you a 30% discount so you can hopefully find, someone locally to sort out the problem. Would that be suitable? So I snapped their hand off, because that's another £117 off. So I actually got an i7 with 16 gig of RAM and a 1050 card for £373.
Are you going to keep it up so maybe you can get it even lower?
I just don't think, what else can I do
You should
now?
flip it.
Put it on eBay, eBay, make a fortune.
Yeah.
It's worth, it's got to be worth £800.
Mm-hmm.
I got it for 373. So I'm well chuffed.
Like a money-making opportunity.
Nice.
Yeah, things don't happen like that to me. So for all the crap that's happened in the past couple of years, this is made up for it.
Good. So stop bitching.
Makes a nice.
That's it.
We're sick of hearing about your problems.
I was sick to death of moaning all the time. Now I've got something good to talk about.
Oh boy.
No, it's nice.
Nice.
Change.
Very nice. Very nice.
Wonderful. So I retired one of my XP computers yesterday. The one that I use is a file server.
Yeah.
And how does this microphone sound?
Fine.
Good. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, perfect. Just talk like that.
Hello.
Yeah, keep doing that, please.
You like it? Huh? It's an age. Anyway, so I decided that yesterday it's too hot to go do anything. I decided to stay inside and start cleaning up this mess around here some more, which is a lifelong endeavor. And I have probably 5 or 6 computers in here. I have 2 i7s, one of which I really never use. But I started by taking previously I transferred the files from my file server to my new file server, which has been here sitting here doing nothing for 6 months. And it's a brand new computer I built. Actually longer than that because it was before Christmas. So I built this computer. I did get most of the other stuff put in there. It's 4 terabyte drive is the primary drive. It's an SSD for the boot drive and a 4 terabyte for the data drive. I started copying a lot of things over there, and it's just unbelievable how many duplicates I have, how many very different copies I have of the same thing. So that'll be another lifelong effort to get some of that crap cleaned up. But having done all of that, I then yesterday decided to finally take the last 2 drives out of my XP server, the boot drive and the second data drive, and copy all that over to the new server. Well, I remembered why I hadn't done it yet. And the reason I hadn't done it yet is because those 2 drives are IDE.
Oh boy.
I decided that I would look around. In fact, find several PCI to IDE cards with cables and so forth. I plugged one of the cards. This motherboard I bought intentionally has a couple of PCI slots on it, even though it's brand new. i5 or i3, I don't remember which. I plugged the card in, and Windows 7 did not recognize it. I went into Device Manager, found the card, said update driver. Where do you want to look? Look on the internet. Windows Update. Sure enough, it went out and found the driver, installed it. The card shows up, it's working fine. Still can't see the drive. Well, it's been a long time since I've screwed around with these things, and I'm starting thinking, and I tried to say, well, maybe the card's bad, maybe the Windows 7 driver's not. I said, wait a minute, I just remembered something. I looked at it, and sure enough, I had to reset a jumper on the IDE drive.
Master and slave.
Yeah.
When is the last time you heard about doing that?
Right.
Yeah.
So I took the jumper. I had to steal a jumper because I couldn't find my jumpers. It's been so long, which I did find one after that. But I put a jumper on it, booted right up, read right off of it with no problem, copied everything over. So now everything is moved over. And that machine, what I did do, in case I ever gripe about it, you remind me. What I did do was I put those 2 drives back into those 2 IDE drives back into that computer, made sure it was still boot and everything. And I've stored it. So theoretically, if something didn't get copied over or is corrupt, theoretically, I can reboot that machine and get everything off of it, because I have no desire at all to save the IDE drives for any purpose other than to make sure that everything did get copied over correctly.
Yeah, put the drives with the card and the cables in a plastic bag and put it on the shelf.
Well, the drives are installed in the computer.
Take them out.
No, I don't want to take them out. I put them back in.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
and I stored the computer, put it out in the garage.
Oh, okay.
Well, you would hope,
yeah.
You would hope in that situation that it would work. I've had the experience this week of I've got 3 SATA drives, 2 of which have been used quite a lot, so I don't mind too much. But I got 1 terabyte SATA drive, which all I did was cloned it and then put it away so that it was, safe.
Yeah.
And I've not used the drive other than cloning it. I went to use it this week and it won't even fire up.
Oh, come on.
3 drives I've got that won't, they'll start to spin up and then they just go, won't recognize it. 3 drives. What's the odds of that happening?
Wait a second. How are you connecting the drive?
Well, I put it through a SATA dock. which works for all of the drives that I've tried, but
Try-
this one
Try and put it in internal.
on the internal machine. Okay, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, put it internal.
I'm certainly very surprised at the 1 terabyte. It's a Samsung drive, which I've had good results from in the past. But I was really disappointed. I thought, why
Yeah,
are you kidding me? I know the drive's 4 or 5 year old, maybe 6 year old.
If it
But it's not-
spins up,
It could be that there is not enough power getting through one of the wires. So
Right.
it could be that you want to switch the power.
Well,
I
with the
certainly
dock-
remember it working before, and it's working in a dock, which has
Mhm.
worked before in the past.
Does that
Absolutely.
dock have its
Yeah,
own
but
power
think-
supply?
yeah.
Yes, it does.
Okay, that I agree that that could be an issue because over time, how old is the dock?
About 4 years, 5 years old.
Okay, so if it's got some of those bad capacitors in the little power supply and it's
Yeah.
not able to supply the power, then that certainly could be a symptom. And I agree
Okay.
with what Amnon says. Try it on the motherboard, and even if one fails on the motherboard, then that's not the problem.
Right. Okay. I'll give that a go.
Yeah, if
I
it
haven't-
starts, Steve, if it starts spinning and then shuts down, most likely it's just not getting enough power to, what do you call it in the beginning? What does it do? It
Works.
To boot.
no,
Or
it
to spin up.
adjusts itself. It puts the head where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm trying to? I can't
Boot.
remember.
Initialize.
Initialize.
Well, I mean, it's got a USB 2 port on it, although it's a SATA drive that takes 3.5 or a double SATA dock. So it's 4 years old. So I could swap it over and buy a USB 3 one, I suppose, which is
Put
gonna be
it on
more.
the internal and see if it makes a difference. And
Yeah,
then,
there may be nothing
will.
wrong with your dock.
right.
Yep. Okay, we'll do that. Give it a try. Thank you.
Yes,
I
sir.
did have another experience yesterday as well. I had such good success with that computer. I decided that what I would do is, Nick has seen the setup here. What I decided I would do, I have my audio desk that I used to use at the old house. That's now set up over in the corner. That's where Nick was working when he was here. I've decided to go ahead and set that up with its own computer. And instead of, like right now, what I have where I'm sitting and working, I have 2 monitors, but it's 2 different computers. I've decided that it's better to have one computer with 2 monitors than 2 computers each with 1 monitor.
Yes, sir.
I've become a big convert in that regard. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this other i7 that I never use. It's a Lenovo M92P. I'm going to take it and put it over on the audio desk and have it set up over there. Well, okay, so to do that, what I did was, and this is convoluted and maybe nobody will follow it, but I'm going to tell you anyway. What I did was when I bought that computer, it came with a 1 terabyte drive in it. The boot drive was a 1 terabyte drive. Okay, that's fine. Everything was fine. Windows 7, I'd made images of it from the factory and what have you. Well, then Windows 10 comes along. And at that time, in fact, Windows 10, when it was originally released, did not work with the Delta 1010 sound drivers. Did not work. Absolutely would not work.
Works now.
Yeah, over time, somehow Microsoft fixed something in Windows 10, and now they work very, very well with Windows 10. But at the time, I was scared to convert to Windows 10 because if I couldn't use that sound card, I could not do the radio show and so forth that I was doing. What I did was I imaged the boot drive, factory boot drive, to an SSD, which is what I wanted anyway. Put the SSD in, everything booted, everything was fine. And I may be getting it. So, and then I was using let me back up. I'm out of order. I went to an SSD first, used it a lot under Windows 7. Then the Windows 10 thing came along. And I said, well, now what am I going to do? If I update that SSD and it doesn't work, I'm screwed. What I did was I imaged the SSD to a mechanical drive that I happened to have, which was a 2 terabyte drive, not being used. I imaged it to the 2 terabyte drive, didn't even change the partition size, which was 250 gigabytes because it was an SSD. Then once I installed the mechanical drive, I updated the mechanical drive to Windows 10. Thankfully, everything worked. The mechanical drive has been in that computer. Now, what that means is I now have a 1 terabyte mechanical drive with Windows 7, a 250 gigabyte SSD with Windows 7, a 2 terabyte, I don't think I said it wrong, 2 terabyte mechanical drive with Windows 10 that's currently the boot drive. And I said, well, this is getting to be a mess. I actually went out and bought another hard drive yesterday. I went over to Best Buy and got a 500 gigabyte SSD for $163.
Wow.
Wow, those have come down in price.
Really? And
Wow.
it's a Samsung 850 EVO.
No,
That's a good
I
one.
spent, not to cut off your story, I can't find it. I have a 128 gig SSD that I bought probably 4 years ago. It was probably that same price.
Yep.
That's crazy.
This is 500. And it's 175 with tax and everything.
That's insane.
So I got back. I then imaged the 2 terabyte drive. I imaged that over to the SSD. And after I imaged it, I went in with Boot It, whatever it is now, the BIBM Boot It bare metal, and changed the partition sizes so that now the whole drive is being used. It's a 500 gigabyte drive, less whatever the reserve partitions are for the boot system. Then I went in to do Windows. Everything was fine. No glitches, no nothing. Went in to do the Windows updates, which that machine, I would turn it on periodically, let it run, and it normally would update. And this thing came up with something like just a ginormous number. Well, not ginormous, Windows 10, 22 updates or something like that. So I said, okay, go ahead and do all the updates. Didn't matter. I was on an image drive anyway, clone drive. And it ran for about 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever it was. And out of all those 2 or 3 of the updates would not run. And it spent the next 30 minutes rolling back the updates. I rebooted the machine and said, you need to apply updates. I said, okay, apply the updates. And everything worked and went through fine. And it got to the point that it could find no additional updates. So as soon as the show's over, I am moving that machine over to, and I made an image of everything. I'm moving it over to the desk. And now I'm going to wipe out the 2 terabyte boot drive that's in it and put it into the server for an additional 2 terabytes of server since the 4 terabyte drive is full. What I really need is some 10 terabyte drives, and I need about 3 of them so that I
order's a couple while you're there with you.
all right, so I can have a primary drive and then 2 backups of different brands.
What are you using to do the image? Copy the image across.
The Terabyte Unlimited is the one I've always used. It's called Image for Linux.
Right.
It's
Okay.
a boot CD. It uses Linux to image the drive, so it doesn't get hung up on Windows protected files and all that crap.
Have any of you, I mean, most of us image and do backups and things. Have any of you experienced when you've done an image and then you go to recover it, that Windows comes back and says it can't boot the drive?
Yes.
How have you
Yes.
got over it?
Well, with Image for Linux, you boot into the CD and it says something like rewrite the MBR or whatever the current is. I don't understand that stuff anymore with the new BIOS, but it's something that somebody can explain it better than I. I don't use UEFI that I know of.
I had a situation where after using Ghost, it will not boot.
Okay.
And just running the Terabyte Unlimited, what is it? Next generation.
It's now called Boot It BIBM, Boot It Bare Metal. It used to be called Bing, Boot It Next Generation.
Just bringing it up and rebooting, somehow it fixed the drive.
Not quite, Amnon. When it came up, it said, there's a problem with this drive. Do you want to fix it? And you click yes. And as soon as you do, it's fixed. It is something.
Okay, maybe it's been some years. Maybe that was it. But it was painless.
Yeah, I've had similar experience, and I've used different programs that have got like fix MBR, or you've got to run through and run, what was it called? Boot rec and boot sect and BCD boot and all the rest of it, which is a pain. What I was going to say, I can't remember now.
Related
The
thing.
whole point of me bringing this up, and I forgot. Oh yeah, the only other way I've been able to do it was to install a basic install of Windows from Windows bootable media, then do a recover, and for some reason it works because it's got the Windows stuff at the beginning. Because Windows won't repair it. You say you go into install and say no, choose repair. Windows isn't able to repair this drive, but if you do a base install, then recover to that, Windows is doing something at the beginning that the drive needs.
It has, yes.
Programs don't.
And if you wanted to spend a week studying it, you could figure it all out because I've done that before. But if you don't use it, you forget it. There really is. There's some sort of, I forget the name of it, but there's a boot.ini or something like that. There's actually a text file at the beginning of the drive that tells the drive where to go look for things. What happens when you image drives is it physically relocates a partition or a pointer or something that it's normally looking at it for A, B, F, F, C, 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 D, and it's moved to a different location. So it goes there, says not there, can't boot. Then you run these utilities and it says, go find all these partitions. It finds them, puts the correct number in there to locate it. The pointer is corrected. And all of a sudden the drive works.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff you can actually do manually with a boot disk, but you've got to be a glutton for punishment to want to learn that crap.
Well, there's a program called Easy BCD, which is Easy Boot something disk. And it does the job, but it's so complicated. Why can't somebody just do, make a program called
I don't
Fix
do the
It?
complicated stuff anymore. I use the image for Linux, but I will warn you, it's very, very geeky. It is Linux command line. They do have a GUI version. I like the command line version, and I know nothing about Linux. So it's not that you have to be a Linux user to use it. It's just an operating system that they use. But having said that, there are some click selections on it. It says click here to rewrite the standard boot sector or something like that. You got to know which one to click. And I never do. I usually pick the one that looks most likely, and so far it has worked.
One thing I did notice this week is, as you mentioned earlier, MBR, which is Master Boot Record. With UEFI bias now, it seems to like GPT disks.
So I don't even know what all that stuff is anymore. It's leaving me behind. I just want to turn on the computer and see, welcome to Windows.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, with UEFI, which we've got coming up in the future, that's no longer there. UEFI is nice because it's an interface that you can use with your mouse and you can click and loads of different settings. What I would recommend if you've got a UEFI bias is turn off Secure Boot and turn off CMS. And then
I think I had to do that because on this new server computer, I couldn't get Windows to install.
No, it says it can't install to a GPT disk.
Whatever, and I didn't know what all that stuff was, and then I researched and read it, and you have to do this and have to do that, and I don't know how I finally got around it, but I was finally able to get all that crap turned off, and then everything worked perfectly. And again, I just want the computer to work. I don't care about all that stuff.
Yeah,
Secure Boot is nice, and this CMS, I can't remember what it stands for now, but again, it's nice, but I don't want it, thanks. Turn it off, and then it works fine, like the old BIOS used to.
all right, guys.
Modern stuff, we don't want it.
It's that time.
It is.
Gosh.
Anybody else, anything to add? Nothing?
Nope, not me. So this microphone sounds okay?
Yeah, you did change it. I saw you during Steve's
monologue.
Well, sorry about that. I thought I had it muted, but I did not.
Yeah, it sounds great. I mean, how far? You're not far from it, are you? Yeah. What happened if you sit back about 3 feet? Let me see. Just see.
All right, this is about 3 feet.
We can hear you, but it's
very good.
So
in a quiet room, it'll be all right.
But if I get over to a side, it starts getting bad. You see,
yeah, that's bad. You're right.
Well, I'm only this far away from it, from off axis. So now I'm at the same distance, but now I'm on axis.
I need to ask Tom Sinclair do you know which shotgun mic he's using?
I know which one he bought. I don't know which one he's using.
I think it's one that he got from a
I believe it's an AT897.
it was mounted on a webcam, not a webcam, a cam, handy cam or something, I think.
Then he probably got the Rode video mic.
Because it sounds great.
Well, the one I heard didn't sound great. And I haven't heard him recently, though. Has he changed it recently?
I don't know. I don't watch the show on a regular basis. I just know that.
But that BP897, what did the Audio Technica, is the one of mine that you borrowed that you thought was defective.
No, I just say it didn't work for them back then. I mean, today I may be able to use it in a better way.
Right.
Understanding how to, but we'll see. I mean, I'd rather go with something that is a lot simpler. Mike, and if you leave the battery in that, whatever you call that unit on the lav mic has the, what is it?
Well, it's actually an impedance converter, but it's just a blob to you.
All right, if you leave it on, I mean, how long would that battery last? Do you know?
No, I've never tested it. It doesn't last like a digital watch, I can tell you that. It does have some drain on it.
Yeah,
It probably, I'm guessing it might last a week.
Yeah, I need to remember to switch it off. All right. Okay, guys, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been awesome.
You.
Glad to have you join us.
Thank you.
Yes,
I've learned a lot. Yeah, you guys have been experts in lots of those stuff that I used to do sometimes, but I mean, I would never call myself an expert in any of that stuff.
Yeah, well, we call ourselves expert, but it's a lie.
We're fibbing.
If you know this stuff better than somebody else, that you are a better expert than that some other, like myself, for example.
It's kind of like being a teacher. You don't have to be an expert, but you need to have read tomorrow's lesson before you teach it to the class today.
There you go. Well, at least pretend that you've read that.
Yes.
Or give them a homework.
There you go.
All right.
All right.
We'll see you guys next week.
Have a good week.
See you guys next week.
You too.
Take care.
And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Donna. Thanks, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. While you're at it, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, it's the Breaking Free show. At 5 o'clock, it's the Gisela show. See you sometime.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.